here, full-time reseller, and I'm coming live at you with everything I sold online over the past 48 hours on eBay. So this is everything that I'm pushing out the door and shipping off. This is a little assortment of work utility. I got some pants, I got some motocross pants, and I got a couple hard goods to share with you. But kind of like last week, it was another slow weekend of sales. This is my third holiday reselling, so I'm not surprised by that. As we wind down quarter four, people have a little bit of spending fatigue from the holidays, and people are just kind of holding on to their wallets because they're a little bit lighter due to the holiday. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. As usual, I will share with you the brand. I'll give you an idea what I paid for it. I'll give you some advice on what I put on the title as well as the description box when I list these items, and hopefully that'll give you some better advice and information on how to possibly list similar items. I'm really big on using specific keywords to try to help get more eyes on the potential sale, and that has been very, very helpful for me, especially in the last year or so. So follow along and I'm going to just jump right into it. So first item up is a pair of Burn insulated duck canvas bib overalls. Now, Burn is probably my second best seller when it comes to work utility. It's definitely not Carhartt quality, but it comes very close, and I typically sell a lot of different work utility brands. As much as I love to sell Carhartt, and I wish I could just sell only Carhartt, there's a lot of imposters out there, and oftentimes I can find those imposter brands like Burn for a lot cheaper than what I'd probably have to pay for Carhartt. And so I just grab all of it, and when I tell you this, a lot of it will sell even if the condition is not great. The guys that are wearing this work utility outfits, whether it be the duck canvas jackets, the double knee pants, or insulated coveralls or overalls like these, are generally working blue collar type jobs. They're welders, they're oil filled guys, they're construction workers, they might work on a dairy farm, and so they're working outdoors in inhospitable climates, and it's cold. And so my experience is that I do really well selling these items generally after the holiday, and I think that's probably because it just gets colder after the Christmas holiday, but they do sell very well for me during the winter months. I just see an uptick in their sales right after the Christmas holiday, and so be on the lookout for brands like Burn. Another great seller of mine that's kind of an imposter to Carhartt is Walls. I do really good on a lot of the vintage Walls work utility outfits, the jackets, the coveralls, and then there's some lesser brands. There's Rasco, Lapco, there's Key. I could just keep going on. All of them will sell, but just know, in my own personal opinion, Carhartt is king, but I love to sell Walls and I love to sell Burn. And so a little bit about these. These are 2XL tall, and anything tall will always help sell an item better. Large and tall, long, anything like that. I love to cater to the big guys, and that's probably because there's less clothing options out there. So these Burn insulated bib overalls sold on an offer of 15% off, and they sold for $40.50. I did tack on $12.95 shipping because these items, especially coveralls and insulated overalls, are really, really heavy. So don't go cheap on your shipping, especially if you're going to have to ship an item like this all the way across the country. These here are not going far. They're going up to Iowa. I imagine some farmer's probably freezing his butt off and just wants a pair to replace his old beat up pair. And so that's where guys like me step in. I only gave $8 for these at a yard sale, but I have been sitting on them for about 5 months now. They have only been listed to eBay though for about a month, and they sold pretty quickly. So glad to see them go. I love to put duck canvas definitely in the title. I'll put insulated, quilted, all those terminologies I'll put in the title. But then when I get into the description, that's where I really go off on all the different work occupations. I always put oil filled. I'll put specific positions in the oil filled, like pumper, driller, switcher. I'll put rig up, I'll put roustabout crew, and then I'll jump over and I'll do other occupations like construction. I'll put heavy equipment operator, I'll put pipeline, welder. Just use your imagination and think about the type of person who would be wearing this type of item. And again, don't forget to put duck canvas. These items here sell well for me, again, in the winter months, but there's not much of a market for them in the off season. And so for that reason, I really try to get them listed in the earlier part of the fall and winter. those there were listed very late, so I'm glad that I sold them. Some of the downfalls of selling an item like that is it's very heavy to ship. It is very space consuming in your storage area. And so if you're someone like me and you're working from home, you're going to want to move those bigger items quicker. So just be aggressive with your pricing, be good about clean pictures, be good about listing the flaws, because a lot of work utility wear is going to have stains, it's going to have holes, it's going to have color fade. And if you do that, you'll have more success with selling your work utility. So I'm going to go ahead and get off the work utility tangent and get into another one. These are No Fear motocross pants. Now, probably not the strongest brand, but not the weakest brand when it comes to motocross pants. I do very good on motocross jerseys as well as pants. I've gotten away from selling the helmets just because I don't feel like they sell as quickly, and the helmets really move fast when it comes to technology. So a helmet that's only 2 or 3 years old, it might just be kind of outdated and harder to sell. But when it comes to the pants and the jerseys, I sell the heck out of those type of garments. And with motocross apparel, I'm just very good about listing the flaws. It's kind of like work utility. The guys that are wearing this stuff are wrecking dirt bikes. They're racing in it. So there's going to be stains, oftentimes oil stains. There's going to be a lot of scuffs and scratches. But these bad boys here did sell for me for $34, and I did charge $10.50 shipping. I did have to pay up for these $10.49 at my local Goodwill, but I was confident they'd sell, and it only took a couple months to get rid of them. I like to put keywords like trail riding, motocross, motorcycles, dirt bikes, racing, supercross, arena cross, and so on and so forth. Again, just try to think about the item and what would help try to get a better sale, or what would correlate that item to specific words, and that is going to help you. So it was a great weekend for a lot of work utility, and I'm here to tell you I sold a lot of coveralls, a lot of insulated overalls, and the reason I sell so much of this stuff, as I've said in past videos, especially what sold videos, is I live in oil-filled country. It's easy to source these items. Now this next pair of insulated duck canvas coveralls are Walls. These are from the Blizzard Proof line, and Blizzard Proof is, I believe, their vintage line. I don't believe it's made anymore, but I do very good on the Walls Blizzard Proof goose down filled jackets, and especially any of the Walls Blizzard Proof duck canvas jackets, coveralls, and insulated overalls. So these bad boys here, I only gave $5 for, but when I picked these up, they were laying in the dirt at a garage sale. They had oil stains, dirt stains, they were beat up. So I gave these guys a lot of love, and that took a little bit of time. I had to hit them with some OxyClean spray. Then I let these bad boys soak in OxyClean detergent powder overnight, and it actually really pulled a lot of the stains out. There are still several stains on these coveralls. It didn't get them completely clean, but it did pop them. It freshened them right up, and it didn't actually fade the color. So be very careful if you're using OxyClean on duck canvas. It can fade it, and I'm just saying that up front and out there because I don't want you to go ruin a good Carhartt jacket or something that might be worth some value. But once again, I used a lot of those work utility keywords. With coveralls, I really like to put the mechanic words. I'll put diesel mechanic, I'll put pipeliner, I'll put refinery, gas plant. And again, these are guys that are working out in the cold. I'll also put North Slope because there's a lot of guys working up in Alaska on the pipeline up around Prudhoe Bay that are freezing their butts off. And so they want a cheap pair of coveralls to keep them warm when they're working outside. And so these bad boys, they again sold for... These sold for $45 plus $11.95 shipping. And again, I only paid $5 for them. So happy to see them move out the door. Got to get back on my list here because I'm getting a little bit off track. Now, I'm going to jump to a hard good. Now, I always love to share hard goods that don't sell because that's going to be the nature of how your experience is with reselling. You're gonna buy certain things and they're not gonna sell well for you. And that typically comes in your first year or two. You will learn what to pass on. And I've been doing this for 2.5 years and there's still items that sometimes I wanna pull the trigger on. It's very hard to say no to things that you think you might be able to make money off of. And so here's one of them. Now I bought 2 boxes of Brita pitcher water filters almost a year and a half ago. The first box sold very quickly for $12 and some change plus shipping. This box has sat forever though. So I went ahead and took an offer of $7 plus shipping. I'm happy to see it go. I think that the reason that this box took longer to sell is there was some wear around the edges, and I also had to retape the top of the box, but it is full of the filters. They are in new condition. I was just good about listing it. I only gave $3 for each of these boxes, made some decent profit off the first box I sold, and I sold that immediately. I didn't make a whole lot of profit off of this, but again, this is a learning curve for me. This is something I probably wouldn't buy in the future. So just keep your mind open to thinking about what sells, what you've had good experience selling in the past, and just know even if you sell something and have success with it, then next time you try to sell it, it may not sell for you. And that could be due to condition, it could be due to the style going out, or maybe it's just because there's just not a lot of desire and the sell-through rate isn't very good on that item. So regardless, glad to see it get off my hard goods shelf. I'm humbly sharing with you that this item took a long time to sell and there really wasn't a whole lot of profit in it. But that's okay because I know a lot of other good items that will make me profit. And again, here's another one of them. This is a Bulwark flame resistant men's Henley. I find crew neck flame resistant shirts and Henleys all the time. And again, there are a lot of those different brands. There are Carhartt, there are Bulwark, there are Lapco, Rasco. There's a lot of different ones out there, but Bulwark is a pretty solid bread and butter flame resistant brand for me. Oftentimes when I source shirts like this, very much like the duck canvas work utility jackets, coveralls, and overalls, they're a little bit beat up. So just make sure that you're pricing them competitively. I believe initially I had this shirt listed for $19. It ended up selling on an offer somebody sent me for $17.80. I charged $6.95 shipping for it. And ultimately I did pay $4.50 for this shirt at a thrift store just a couple weeks back, but I'm used to only paying a couple dollars for these at yard sales. So the fact that I had to pay a couple dollars more for it was okay because this is a bread and butter brand. This is an item that I know will sell. And if you can find plus size flame resistant garments, especially shirts and jackets, they just seem to do better for me. I can't say that the plus size pants sell any faster, but when it comes to jackets and shirts, the bigger sizes just go for more. So again, go back to all those work utility, construction, oil filled, anything that's requires a flame resistant garment, and with shirts and jackets as well as flame resistant pants, I sometimes delve deeper into the different types of construction. Electrician is definitely one of them that I like to put in the title or in the description box. And just know these shirts will sell even if they're beat up. You just got to be patient. They may not jump off your clothing rack or your shelves super fast, but there's a desire for them. And one thing I know, because I live in oil field country and because so many of my friends work in the oil field, is there's a lot of smaller oil field companies that do not provide a stipend for flame resistant clothing, and this stuff costs a lot of money. So again, I'm just catering to those guys whose company does not pay for work clothing several times a year and they have to buy it themselves. And so I'm their guy. This is an item that sells for me. Glad to see it go. So now jumping into another hard good, and again, humbly, I'm going to share with you, this is an item that did not sell. I've sold a lot of different massagers over the years. It's something I've gotten away from selling because I primarily sell a lot of clothing, and these handheld massagers don't sell for a lot of money. I would definitely say that the best brand to sell is Homedics, but even they don't sell for as much money, and I don't think they're selling as quickly as they did, say, several years ago. This, however, is a sharper image handheld massager. It does have all the attachments. It is in the box, but it was used. Initially, I think I had this listed for $17. I've had it for almost 2 years. I've incrementally dropped the price on it slowly. It really didn't have a whole lot of watchers, didn't have a whole lot of views. And anytime you see an item that's been listed for a long time, if it doesn't have a lot of views or any watchers, that's probably a signal that you have it overpriced, or maybe there's just not a lot of desire for it in the market. So my advice is to slowly start dropping the prices on those items. The trade-off is if it's an item with a ton of watchers and a ton of views and it's not been listed for very long, just be patient. It's probably going to sell for you. Getting excited and dropping your prices too fast is only going to mean you're making less money. So again, humbly, this is an item I let go for cheap, and it sold for $8 plus $7.85 shipping. and I did pay $4 for this at a local thrift store. Not much money to be made. I'm not gonna be too upset about it because there's so many items I pay a few dollars for, and I might sell them for $50 to $100. So this is the trade-off. You gotta have some sales that you just don't make a whole lot of money, and I like to chalk it up to being a lesson. It's a lesson of what I wouldn't buy, a brand I probably wouldn't buy, and something I would probably list for a lot cheaper if I was to source it in the future. So glad to see that bad boy go. Now, next item up is my favorite brand to sell. It is beyond just my bread and butter. It's my work partner, and I wouldn't say that I sell the most of this brand, but it's probably my favorite to sell because I can source it. I love it because it's timeless, it's super durable, and that brand is Carhartt. This is a huge jumbo pair of R33 men's insulated overalls. These are huge, these are monstrous, and they do have some stains, as I warned you. Work utility stuff is often going to be beat up. Now, credit to my dad. He's always out looking for stuff for me. He's a big reason I do this. My dad was always flipping stuff as a side hustle when I was a kid. It truly inspired me, and when nobody else believed in me, it was my dad who did. So if there's nobody else out there to believe in you, go look in the mirror and just believe in yourself. But if you have one or two people who are always on your home team, who believe in you, who support you, latch onto those people and quiet the naysayers, because the naysayers are only doubting you because it's probably something they were afraid to do and something they believed they could never do. And so it's either that they're jealous or they're just empty inside. So my dad paid $15 for these. I did sell them on an offer for $57 plus $15.50 shipping, and I went really high on the shipping because these are a very big plus size. They're heavy. It's almost like shipping 2 Carhartt jackets when you really look at the size, once this is all packaged up and once you weigh it. And again, I'm just going back to all those work utility keywords, definitely putting duck canvas in the description. And because these were so flawed with stains and a few small holes, I had to really write a big paragraph about all the flaws. I took good descriptive pictures and just put my finger on those flaws. And again, good profit, still had to pay up for these items. But one thing I would like to say is my local flea market is a really great haven for work utility wear. And I'm not saying that your flea market is going to be that. I've been to some flea markets in Phoenix and couldn't find any work utility. But if you live in Texas, if you live in Colorado, southern Utah, Oklahoma, Louisiana, or anywhere where oil field is predominant and prevalent, maybe not so much in your state, but just in your local community, be on the lookout for work utility wear, flame resistant wear. It is very easy to find in flea markets in those type of areas. But again, the market has to produce these types of items for resale. So you definitely want to be in one of those states that has a lot of industry, a lot of oil field, maybe a lot of construction, a lot of development, and that will help you to source items easier. One of the best pieces of advice I took early on in my reselling endeavor was to simply do that. Just look for the items that are common in your area. And I always say this in these what sold videos, but if there's a lot of golf courses in your area, there's probably going to be a lot of golf polos, a lot of golf pants, and a lot of golf shorts. So maybe be on the lookout for those items. For me in particular, in northern New Mexico, it's a lot of Western wear, it's a lot of work utility, a lot of flame resistant, but because I live so close to the Colorado border, I can drive 45 minutes north and get into a whole other assortment of goods, and it's almost like a night and day difference. So I'm kind of lucky in that sense that I have almost 2 different worlds to source from, and I'm not going to say that it's not challenging, because sourcing items consistently can be very hard for me when you live in a smaller market with limited thrift stores to choose from, and because of where I live, it is very cold, and so there is absolutely no garage sales or very few garage sales and estate sales going on during the winter months. So I just have to depend on thrift stores. I have to pay up. That's the nature of the game. And so you have to think about how you're going to run your business, but definitely be thinking about your market. Is the weather cooperative to where you can source items from garage sales for cheap year round? Is the weather very bad? And so you're going to have to depend on thrift stores in a certain part of the year. Do you live in a smaller area where there's no thrift stores? You got to really start to look at these things, especially if you want to blow this whole deal up to be full-time And that part is very challenging, not gonna lie about it. I have my own challenges. I'm not gonna lie and make it seem like I make a ton of money. There are some struggles, but there's a lot of reward in doing this. The best reward I would possibly say though is the freedom to work for yourself, to call your own shots, and to be your own boss. That is the part I love. And to be honest with you, I did 15 years of medical work as a licensed physical therapist assistant, and I have made way more money in the 2.5 years doing this despite the costs of running a business. So just know if you're one of those people that's tired of your job, a lot of us resellers were once that person. You can latch on to people like me or other people who will share a wealth of knowledge for free on YouTube. That's really how I learned to do this. You can do it too. You just got to invest your time and effort and all of your self-love into that hustle. That was once me just 2.5 years ago. And so I'm simply going to get off this soapbox by saying when you become sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll finally make that change. And for me, I was just tired of what I was doing and I was ready for that change. So coming at you hard with this pair of classic fit men's polo jeans. I picked up 2 pairs of these jeans this past summer. I believe they wanted like $4 or $5 a piece. I simply offered them $3 for both pairs, but told them I'd pick both pairs up. So the art of bundling in the garage sale season is how I like to save a lot of money. And anytime I can find multiple pairs of pants and I can bring the price down by $2 or $3 by bundling a whole bunch of them together, I will do that, especially with a great brand. These polo jeans probably could have sold for a little bit more, but they weren't listed for very long. And because it's been a couple slow weekends in a row, I have been more liberal with letting some things go for a little bit cheaper than I normally would. These guys here were in great shape. They sold for $21 plus $9.95 shipping. I certainly could have sat on them for another 2, 3, 4, 5 months and made a few more bucks off of them, but I'm good with letting them go. Polo is a great brand. It's a brand that I don't source enough and sell enough, but oftentimes it's simply because it is just priced out of the park at a lot of my thrift stores. So when I can find Ralph Lauren polo at garage sales, I jump on it. It's seldom that I do because most people selling garage sale items aren't selling a whole lot of Ralph Lauren polo, but it is out there. You just got to put yourself out there. So here's another brand I love to sell. I'm going to share with you one of their emblems, and that is this little shield. These are cool. The Law double knee, I want to call them hiking pants, but really they're more of a work utility style pant. And I don't know what's up with a lot of these Gorp outdoor adventure apparel pants making double knee. It's probably because they're more durable if you're kneeling down making a fire when you're out camping. But what I find in my local area is a lot of the guys, especially up in Colorado, love the double knee pants, not so much for hiking and outdoor purposes, but more so for work and utility. And the double knee is just a lot more durable. So what it is it's just an extra patch of material. You can see it's been sewn to the bottom and then oftentimes sewn to the top. And I have seen lots of different brands from Prana to Outdoor Research to Cool making double knee pants. It probably serves 2 purposes because again, it's very durable when you're in the backcountry, in the backwoods, but I think it has found its own niche with a lot of people doing construction. So I tend to throw in a lot of the Gorp outdoor adventure apparel keywords, but I also actually split it by putting in a lot of work utility words. And so I'll put hiking, backcountry, camping, outside, outdoors, trail, Gorp, and with Cool, I love to put Born in the Mountains because that is actually one of their logos. And with any brand, I love to put their logo. It just helps the item to get more noticed. And then I'll turn right around and I'll put all those work utility keywords. I'll put oil field, I'll put house, I'll put construction, I'll put concrete finisher, I'll put framer and plumber, landscaper, electrician. Use your imagination, people. These, however, were very beat up. And again, I bought 2 pair in very bad condition. Only gave $2 a piece for them. I think that they wanted more, but again, I used the power of bundling. And then I just pointed out the condition was terrible and the person was glad to see them go. That's the beauty of garage sales. I find about 80% of people at garage sales are willing to make you a deal, even if it's not much of a deal. Don't be afraid to haggle. Truly, I hate thrifting because it costs so much money. The trade-off with thrifting is I do find better quality items, often items that don't need cleaned, and sometimes a lot better brands, but again, I'm having to pay up. So there's differences between how you source. I suggest doing a little bit of all of it, whether it's estate sales, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, yard sales, garage sales, and find what works for you. Everybody's market's different. I love garage sales, but they only go on for part of the year, but I save a lot of money and I'm able to make a lot of money by selling those items I pick up and source for very cheap. So down to the last two items, people. Now this is one I love to sell. This is again my grandmother shining down from someplace better, from heaven, I'd like to think. Both my grandmothers had Pyrex, they had a lot of it, so I like to source it in their memory, but also because I can find it for pocket change to a few dollars, and sometimes I can find items like that and sell it for $15 to $25, and once in a blue moon I'll find a Pyrex piece that might be worth $50 to a couple $100. Is it something that most men source and resell? Generally not. It's actually something a lot of women resell, but again, it's collectible. It was produced in great volume for a lot of years. And again, it's something I can find for very cheap, not so much at thrift stores, but at yard sales, garage sales, fundraiser sales, and oftentimes it's sold for very cheap. The thing I would probably avoid with a lot of Pyrex pieces though, is if they're very scratched up, if they're faded, if they're chipped, I would probably walk on them. But if they have good clean graphics, if maybe they're a very rare print, if there's minimal chips and scratches and stains, and you can get it for nothing, I would suggest it, but I'd also suggest making sure, just like clothing, that you look the item up. There's a ton of Pyrex out there, and it'll let you know if it's a print that sells well, if it's rare. This is considered the butterfly gold print, a very common mass-produced print. So this piece didn't sell for a ton of money. It's not super rare, but it was, however, in very clean condition, minimal scratches and stains. So I was just good about denoting that. In the description box, I'll put Pyrex collectors, collection, collectibles, vintage. I'll try to figure out when the item was produced. Maybe that was 70s, 80s, maybe it was 90s. And I love selling vintage Pyrex. And again, it just kind of reminds me that my grandmothers are looking out for me from far away. I don't know why that is. It's just special to me to sell it. And I suggest you find things that you love to sell that maybe connects you to somebody who's long gone. You might find the power of the universe or the power of something greater working to help you with your business. And that's what I found. So this bad boy here did sell for $21.60 on a 15% offer. I did charge $11.50 shipping for this item. Pyrex is heavy and it also has a lid, so I'm gonna have to wrap these items up separately. I'll generally put a piece of cardboard between the lid and the dish itself. In my first year reselling, I broke several vintage Fire King cups and a couple Pyrex bowls that really weren't worth a whole lot, but I felt terrible about it, and it came down to one thing. I was being cheap with my shipping material. Don't do that. So you don't want to have somebody pissed off because they were able to replace a bowl that they've been missing for 10 years. You had it, you sold it to them, and then you shipped it. You went light on packing material and it was shattered. I have lived through that. I'm sharing that with you. Don't go cheap on bubble wrap. It's not that expensive, especially if you buy it in bulk and buy it online. And so Pyrex, it always sells for me. It's something that has a connection to people in my family, and I love that about it, and it always makes me pretty good solid money for what I pay for it. So coming down to the very last item that I sold over the weekend, this is again another pair of coveralls. Now these are a little bit different. These are walls, but these are not from the Blizzard Proof line. These are from the Zero Zone line, and I think that that's a line down below the Blizzard Proof line, and I believe that, I'm not certain of that, so don't quote me, but I believe that because the exterior of these are just a fabric. They're not duck canvas, so definitely not as durable, definitely not as warm or insulated, but the interior of these did have insulation. The downfall of these is they definitely had some stains. There was absolutely no size tag on these, and the interior quilt line insulation had some breaks in the stitch. So I was good about noting all those things in the description box. I pointed out all the flaws, and I just took a lot of hand measures. So I always hold my breath when I sell an item that doesn't have a size tag. and I'm very good about putting hand measures, but that can still not always be foolproof. There's still people who get upset that maybe the item just didn't fit well. So these bad boys here I did sell for a lot less because they were not duck canvas. Again, I used all the same work utility keywords and words in the description box that I did with the prior several pairs of overalls and coveralls I shared with you. These bad boys here I priced extremely competitive because they weren't as desired, because of the stains and the flaws, and because there was no size tag. So they sold on an offer for $21.60. I think that was a 15% offer somebody sent me, or 16% off. And then I charged $11.50 for the shipping because, again, it's almost like shipping 2 jackets. But I'm glad to get rid of these. I only gave $3 for these at a garage sale. I did have to wash them. I didn't get all the stains out, but they were much more presentable and more desired after I washed them. So just be careful. If you wash everything you source, you're going to spend a lot of time on soap, detergents, and water. Be picky about what you choose to wash. Really make sure that it's worth your time. So that's all I got for you, my friends. Definitely another slow weekend, but I'm good with it. The week prior was pretty consistent for me. I'm just trying to get all of my items that I've purchased in this previous year listed so I can get credit for my cost of goods. I suggest you be busy for the next few days if you got some items that have yet to be listed so that you can get that credit when tax season comes around. I'm gonna go ahead and wind this one down. But as always, friends, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you like this video, please reach out there, punch the like button for me. And if you would, please subscribe. I'm out.